First of all, we have apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair. Apologies from Councillor T. Salim and also Begum.
Thank you very much. And can I sign the record of the minutes for the 10th of October as a true record, please? Thank you. Remind members around section 106 of the Local Government Act, and also if you've got any disclosures of interest. We have no business not covered by the current forward plan or special urgency. No references from committees, but we do have a recommendation from scrutiny. And I believe Amy is here to present that. Is it all right to do it alongside the waste report from the council? Then it's all done in one. Yeah, thank you. We've no petitions. And then we're on to Children's and Families and Education Service, and item 8 over to Aslam.
Thank you very much, Chair. The proposal before you is about the expansion of Lady Zia Warner Special School into the Lee Grave Centre. On October 20th, the policy group was recommended to consider the proposal of expansion of special school onto a second site at the Lee Grave Centre to create additional 110 places, and this was approved to continue the executive on the 7th of November. Executives are asked to approve expanding Lady Zia Warner School onto the second site at the Lee Grave Centre to enable the council to meet its statutory duty to ensure sufficiency of primary special school provisions for Luton residents' children. And secondly, a small 8-place expansion on the current Lady Zia Warner School site. The rationale behind this is that members were consulted in the policy group on the 18th of November 2021 on a proposal to redevelop Redgrave Gardens to create additional special school places. In the primary phase at this meeting, members' preference was to expand an existing special school onto second site rather than establish a new free school. And due to complications arising around the reallocation of the NHS staff who were currently housed in the Redgrave Garden building, the Lee Grave Centre became a more viable option that could ensure additional places were available in September 2023. The Lee Grave Centre is an established educational site, and it was once an infant school and is now being utilised as offices for education staff at the council who are being reallocated to Town Centre Extension in January and February 2023. Conference training facilities also operate from the centre. And despite the significant expansion of special school places, pupils' projections indicate a future significant shortfall or in capacity in the primary special sector. The projection relate to children with severe learning difficulties and those with profound and multiple learning difficulties who cannot accommodate in resource provisions attached to mainstream schools. The Lee Grave Centre can be developed to provide high quality special school education provision to meet the complex needs of these pupils. The expansion utilising the Lee Grave Centre should ensure the council can meet its statutory duty to ensure sufficiency of provision. In-depth consultation has been had with primary schools and the NHS, and it's been received well, and they're complementary. So therefore, the remodelling of the Lee Grave Centre, formerly as an infant school, would be value for money, and it will give us the places that we need. So therefore, I put the report before you for approval for expansion of Lady Zia.
Thank you very much, Aslam. Tom.
All I've got to do is congratulate the boys. It's a really, really good outcome for Lady Zia Warner, which is one of the better schools we've got in Luton. You know, all you got to do is spend a bit of time there, you realise how good a school it is. The only problem, we've got to make sure the hybrid pill's in there when the kids move in. But it's a win-win-win because the kids will spend less time on the coaches being transferred right across the town because there'll be one in Luton North, one in Luton South. The hydro pool will be there. No, it's a fair old size, so we can get that in. It's a solution to a problem we've got, which the council should be proud of the solution it's come up with for those kids. I mean, that alone, that the kids aren't going to have to spend an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half on the buses in the morning, because we one within 2 or 3 miles of their door, they live in Luton North, is a brilliant result in itself. So congratulate the council. It's a good solution to a big problem.
Anybody else? Any other questions from anybody? No? We happy to give the recommendation? Thank you. We now move on to item 9 and the draft electric vehicle charge point strategy. Over to Rob to move this, please.
Thank you, Chair. Before you tonight with the electric vehicle charging point strategy. The government have published a national electric vehicle EV charge point strategy 2022 with the intention that local authorities develop their own local charging infrastructure strategies and oversee their delivery. The Office for Zero Emission Vehicles advises that councils who have adopted EV charge point strategies are well placed to make the case for future investments with respect to grant funding. The aim and objectives of the EV charge point strategy have been shaped by Luton's 2040 vision, local transport plan 4, and in response to an engagement with the public and the key stakeholders. The strategy will provide a policy framework for the council for decision making, and although the council has limited resource with funding for EV charge points and infrastructure largely sourced from government initiatives and grants, it's hoped that third-party investments and increasingly commercial developments such as supermarkets, EV charging hubs will deliver charge points in line with the strategy. The strategy contains a set of objectives underpinned by 20 proposed policies, and these are some, for example, to increase the number of public EV charge points across the council estate to meet the charging need of residents, businesses and visitors. To ensure residents without off-street parking have access to a range of convenient, accessible and reliable EV charge points on street and through charging hubs. To support the transition of the council fleet, public transport and private hire taxi vehicles to zero carbon fuels. To promote EV charge point solutions that improve the user experience of public charging in Luton. To ensure charge points are fairly priced and inclusively designed. The recommendation is the executive approve the draft EV charge point strategy as detailed in Appendix 1. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rob. Any questions from anybody? Yes, Hazel.
Yeah, it's really positive and supportive, but I just wanted to sort of know, have we done any kind of assessment how many charging points we need across the borough, because the demand for electric vehicles is not much more. There's incentives for people to have more cars, and we'll see more cars on the road. So I would imagine that, you know, there will be much more demand. We need to understand whether, you know, we have enough capacity around the town centre. Obviously, local residents will be, you know, having those points in at their houses, but you know, at this time in the moment, just trying to understand the mapping exercise has been done or not.
That's fine. I will ask Sean to come in, but we did say that basically we're looking for the private investment as well in relation to supermarkets, etc. But I'll ask Sean to come in and take your question. Thank you.
Okay, Sean.
Good evening, Councillor. We've done some work with the Energy Saving Trust, and the outline numbers are 800 charge points by 2030, but 200 of those by 2025. So that includes supermarkets, car parks, sort of publicly accessible points, as opposed to private ones on people's drives and elsewhere.
Would that mean the existing service stations would also be considered as because that's a natural area for people to just go and get refueled? And I would imagine that, you know, they would be considering, well, we're consulting with them as well.
Yeah, that includes supermarkets, service stations and other destinations. Yeah.
Okay. Javid.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome this policy because I think lack of charging is inhibiting people from going over and moving over to electric vehicles. One question I will have is, do we have the capacity in substations? Because that is a real issue up at the airport. So that's one question. And also, will we make sure that these are rapid superchargers so that, you know, people can charge within a reasonable time, not 4 hours or 8 hours?
In terms of grid capacity, there's a current application in from UKPN for a large substation to go in on the edge of the Kingswear depot. So that's progressing through planning and in discussions with the applicant. As far as rapid charging, the market and the charging market is changing so quickly now that they're on ultra rapid. So yes, as that develops, rapid will become the new sort of slow, and ultra rapid will become the new norm.
Thank you, Sean. And just a supplementary, so Kingsway, we welcome that, but what about the rest of the town? Because obviously we want to encourage the modal shift across the borough, and don't we think that some of the other parts of the town are also going to need new substations?
In terms of grid capacity, I would have to bow to UKPN, but once we have an adopted EV charge point strategy, one of the things we'll be doing is going back to the DFT and saying, what do we do now and how do we get that grid capacity for Luton as a town?
Just last question on how do we plan to manage to keep the cost so that the electric doesn't cost you more than what it would cost you to fill up by petrol? So how are we planning to control the cost? If the cost escalates out of control, then people will go back to fossil fuels.
All of the charging points will be subject to either commercial agreements that are in car parks or otherwise, and they may not all be within our control, but we'll have some influence. In terms of housing and other our own car parks, that's very much directly within the council as control.
Okay, Javid. Tom?
Well, now we've actually got the policies adopted, the procurement, housing's put money aside to put 10 right across the town in front of what were the old housing shops and other places. The procurement to hold it up for another 6 months. We get on with it now and we're getting put in there. The money's in the HRA, it's sat there. Let's get it spent and get the charging points in. On the 10 locations, housing's already identified with the officers and it's ready to go. So let's get it done.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Anybody else? Are we happy to agree this strategy? Thank you. Draft cycling and walking strategy, Rob.
Thank you, Chair. Before you to draft local cycling and walking infrastructure plan. An LCWIP is a strategic long-term plan that identifies where to focus improvements to local cycling and walking networks over the 10-year period. It will assist to identify cycling and walking infrastructure improvements for future investments in the short, medium and long term. It will ensure that consideration is given to cycling and walking with both local planning and transport policies and strategies. Importantly, it will help make the case for future funding, as currently we are reliant on grant or external funding. In addition, the DFT have advised that local authorities who have plans will be well placed to make the case for future investment. We are aware that local authorities on the boundary of Luton are also developing plans which will enable easier cross-boundary movement for walking and cycling. The LCWIP is important to help us deliver on our target to become a net zero carbon town by 2040. If our residents have access to a better connected, safe network that integrates effectively with wider sustainable transport options, it will help to improve air quality and increase mobility. The next step will be to consult on the document alongside the net zero roadmap with the executive approved recently. The executive is recommended to approve the draft local cycling and walking infrastructure plan for public consultation. Give delegated authority to the Service Director and Sustainable Development and the consultation and portfolio holder for inclusive growth, sustainable development highways to make minor changes prior to the consultation if required. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rob. Any questions? Everyone happy to agree that report? Thank you very much. We now come up to the waste disposal contract. So I'll move back to item 6.1 and ask Amy to move the scrutiny report, please.
Good evening. So you should have in front of you the final report of our scrutiny group. Spent a significant number of months going over a lot of information, which I believe is in the papers in front of you. And you will have our final recommendations, which is that the executive support the renewal of the waste disposal contract for the disposal of household waste in line with our net zero carbon and sustainable principles. That the executive undertake further feasibility work regarding the options of bringing the service in-house, and that note our task and finish group are not able to give a view on this as we did not have sufficient time to analyse the financial details, and that we recommend the executive continue the use of incineration in order for waste disposal and but to seek more environmentally friendly ways of disposing our waste in the future when those alternatives become available. And do you have any questions?
Okay, thank you, Amy. I'm going to ask Tom to respond and move the report that you've got there, Tom.
Yeah, I'm very happy to accept all the recommendations made by scrutiny. It shows that how we both had the same aim. Both would have loved scrutiny and ourselves takes that contract back in house. We just don't have the time to do it because you'd have to negotiate all sorts of contracts for people for taking away recycled goods, selling them on and everything else. By doing a 3-year contract, it gives us plenty of time to actually look at how we can fetch it back in house. After what's happened in the last couple of weeks down there, though, because of the fire and the way our present contractors have worked with us on a partnership, I'm not sure fetching it all back in house would be the best move. If we could find some kind of partnership, a better partnership agreement with them, it may be a better way forward. We've got done those 3 years because we've not lost anything because of the fire. We've taken everything to energy for waste still. It's all been there. The only problem being is a glass collection because the space we're using to store all the materials, what would normally have been inside the shed is where the glass used to be stored. Over the next 2 or 3 weeks, hopefully we'll get that sorted out, get the glass collections back on track and everything else. Accept all the recommendations. I hope the council accepts the officer's recommendations. It works. We've got over 3 years because the contract isn't due till 2024 to actually have a look, build a proper partnership arrangement with someone or fetch it back in house. But we're going to need to find the expertise somewhere to sell on all the materials. There is a group in Hertfordshire, there's another one in Dorset, there's one in Cambridgeshire, a smaller group, where we could join in with one of them on a partnership arrangement to sell on all our recycled materials. But all that work needs to be done. And I would welcome the way scrutiny's worked on it so far. I would welcome scrutiny's input into forming those partnership arrangements to see if it is feasible to fetch it in-house. But rather than an outside fetching it all in now, because of the partnership arrangement since the fire and how it's worked well, we've even managed to keep all of our environmental certificate the way we're doing it, which is a big, big challenge with everything what was going on. I think we should be looking at in-house, still got an open mind to that, but a much more in-depth partnership arrangement with people to see how we can make it work after the new contract or during the new contract if it's the right partners. So I'll move all the recommendations.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Tom's agreed to incorporate all the recommendations into that, so you'll be voting on the whole of the recommendations tonight. And also, if you want to ask any questions, either to Amy for the scrutiny report or to Tom. Are there anybody? David?
Yeah, just 2 points. Thank you, Hazel. First of all, on Sean Askin's report, paragraph 5 says the contractor has in place planning consents. The planning consents, of course, run with the land and not with the contractor. So if the contractor disappears, whoever takes over the job can still benefit from those planning consents. On the 3-year contract, we, the Liberal Democrat members, would hope that you would keep that, keep an open mind on that term, particularly during the early stages of preparing the contract paperwork, given that you're already saying the equipment and the buildings require considerable investment. If in fact you end up finding it beneficial to the council to get the contractor to finance investment, then you'll almost certainly need to be looking at a longer contract for anyone to undertake that. So I'm just suggesting that you keep that period open mind until you've got a clearer idea of what kind of investment's required and how you intend to pay for it.
Okay, thank you, David. Anybody else? No? Tom?
Yeah, if you read the word in the what it says in the proposal is a minimum of 3-year contract from 2024. It's same as a contract now. At any time we could extend that contract. I believe another 4 years up to a 7-year length in total. But because we've got other ambitions to either fetch it in-house or form a partnership arrangement, we believe 3 years from 2024 is a length of time we need to have those discussions, find out the cost. All other partnerships we'd have to do with other councils for the purchasing of all the recycling materials. If that fails, then the possibility of extending the contract will be wrote into the contract documents.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody? Are we happy to agree the amended report that's before you this evening? Thank you very much. And can I please take the regulation as read, please? Move into private. Thank you. We're doing that.